This is Lyn Shea, and I am speaking to Peter Wakesfield today. And you may be more aware of us talking on our the chart profiles we do on celebrity, the series we've started on well-known people. But today we're talking in a much more metaphysical vein, and the subject is the spheres of influence, which is to do with the 7 rays that is fundamental to the esoteric school of thought and the esoteric system. And the 7 rays are not generally known about, and so we thought it worthwhile to have Peter talk about them more in depth, because they do correlate very much with the planetary system, don't they, Peter?
Yes, the 7 rays is based upon the maxim, all is energy. They have been described as the templates of life, the builders of form. And when you consider that everything in the cosmos is energy and energy is transferable, we are all under the influence of archetypes of energy, of which there are 7 main archetypal energy drives or forces, which are part of these templates of life. And the 7 rays is part of the esoteric psychology, as it's so called. And these templates of life are like the morphic fields of Rupert Sheldrake. If you read his book, The Presence of the Past, it tells you of these fields of energy that we all share in nature, whether you're a human being or whether you're an animal or a plant or even a planet. We share fields of energy with other beings, other systems, other planes of expression. We're all aware, of course, with the Earth itself being suffused with different planes or kingdoms, as it's been described. For example, the Earth itself is of the mineral kingdom, where we have stones, rocks and minerals, suffusing with the vegetable kingdom, suffusing with the animal kingdom, and of course humanity itself. The human kingdom acts as a bridge between the spheres of Earth, which I've just described, the four planes, and the 3 higher planes, of which are invisible. So the 7 rays are a means of which we can visualize all visible and invisible forms of existence. And they've been described as archetypal energy patterns, which we all fall under.
Can we have a couple of examples at this point of archetypes and spheres of influence, do you think?
Yeah, one of the ways in which we can visualize the 7 rays is by looking at the mineral kingdom, for example. The first ray, or ray 1 of will and power, is said to be manifest through the diamond. Ray 2, love, wisdom, through the sapphire. Ray 3, through the emerald, active intelligence, and so on. Jasper would be ray 4, topaz ray 5, ruby ray 6, and amethyst ray 7.
So these are very correlate to the chakras as well.
They correlate to the 7 planes of expression, the 7 main chakras, the 7 spiritual planets in the solar system, and of course the planets themselves amplify the energies of which they're recipients of these forces from outside of our system. So the 7 rays are extra-systemic. They're outside of our system. They're said to originate from the 7 great stars of the constellation Ursa Major, the Great Bear, of which it is said is a head chakra, or corresponding to a major chakra in the system of which we're a part. So there's an interconnection, this cosmic interconnection, which streamlines down through the solar system, from the galaxy, through the planets, to the physical and pre-physical structures of the human form. So these divine energies, Lynn, infiltrate through to the human kingdom in terms of attitudes and behaviour.
Yeah.
So
characteristics.
This is very important, of course. So they're very much the builders of form. And these morphic fields, which Rupert Sheldrake talks about, to give you another example, he used the example of the English bird, the blue tit, in Europe, started in the 1950s, started to help itself to the cream of the milk by peeling off the tops of milk bottles, which was a new characteristic. Because up until this point, I don't think we'd had tops on our milk bottles. They'd perhaps been metal before they were aluminium. Anyway, the blue tit had helped itself by peeling the tops or stabbing the tops of these milk tops.
When did this happen? In the 50s?
I think so. I think I'd have to refer to the book, but
milk would only just be being delivered in bottles.
Yeah. The point here being that it was a new characteristic of the blue tit, and it spread throughout Europe.
Oh yeah.
But how or by what means did it spread?
So it's like the hundredth monkey theory.
Yeah. How does one unit of a genus like the blue tit communicate that characteristic throughout the whole genus of the blue tit family? And of course, this suggests that there is an invisible bank of connectedness, an etheric field, perhaps,
that even transcends the collective unconscious.
Yeah. So what happened across Europe is all blue tits started to stab the tops or the cream from
Was
the milk.
any other bird? No, just the
particularly characteristic to the blue tit.
Right, okay.
In the same way, in the human field, we also share a genus field. Roger Bannister in 1954, for example, was the first to run a mile under 4 minutes. But once that pinnacle had been reached, it made it easier for others to follow. In other words, it's as if the ring past knot had been stretched, had been made bigger. And because of that, it made it easier for other men to follow. In a similar way, Edmund Hillary, again in the 1950s, I think it was 1953, became the first man to reach the top of Everest.
Yes.
And again, after he'd reached that pinnacle, sorry to use the pun, but it made it easier for other men to follow. So once this evolutionary drive, this push, whether it be the blue tit, whether it be the athlete, or whether it be the mountaineer, once these thresholds were lengthened or stretched to new heights and new pinnacles, because we share that collective, it makes it easier for others to follow.
So how do we tie in that influence exactly with the 7 rays, or can we not? What I mean is, where's the interface between
Well, the point I'm making,
the energy and the human brain? Where's the interface?
The point I'm making here is about pre-physical structures.
Right.
So
Okay.
the rays are very much pre-physical.
So they're vehicles in some way.
They're vehicles, they're morphic fields, and they imbue psychological types of attitude and behaviour. And it's important because we all come under an umbrella. This umbrella, or the influence of the umbrella, is called an adumbration. And it's an adumbration, which means it's a shadowing.
Yes.
Okay, and this is the sphere of influence I'm referring to.
So there are 7 of these, then. Roughly.
There are 7 major spheres of influence, and we all fall either under 1 or 2 or multiples of these. So the 7 rays, firstly, form a trinity of energies, which then split into 7.
Yeah.
And the trinity of energies have been likened to the Christian trinity of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, or the Hindu trinity of Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu. So whichever religion, there are usually trinities, but the point is here, you can visualize this process of Father, Son, and Spirit by visualizing the tree. The tree has its main stem, which would equate to the progenitor, which is the father. Then you have the forking of the branch, the main stem, which would equate to the splitting of the main stem. And then you have the ramifications, you have the proliferation in the branches and the leaves, which becomes the Holy Spirit. So the tree of life is like ray 1, the stem, will and power. The forking, which is love, wisdom, and then the proliferation, which is ray 3, ramifying into intelligence and diversity, which is what the earth is known for. So these 3 triple energies are very important in the formation of our own bodies. For example, we have the brain stem and the spinal cord. Then we have the splitting of the brain into 2 hemispheres. And then we have all the ramifications, and we have all the proliferations of the nerve and neural networks within those 2 hemispheres.
And what about the cerebral cortex?
Well, that's part of the main stem.
Is that a neutral?
No, it would all come. The brain generally is Aries.
Yeah.
First ray of will and power.
Yeah.
The splitting into a dual cortex, a dual hemisphere, would be ray 2, love, wisdom. So what the point we're trying to make here is even our physical bodies fall under the influence, the umbrella of these archetypes, these morphic fields, these templates of life. They are the builders of form. So these are the spheres of influence. And the star sign that you're under, that you're born under, also acts as an umbrella, an adumbration for these energies. For example, if you're Aries, 80% of Aries is first ray energy, ray and will and power. Or Libra, its opposite sign would be 80% third ray, which is active intelligence.
Mm.
So all of the rays have characteristics of behaviour in personality, in soul, in physical and astral and mental facilities.
So maybe at this
and
point we should
expressions.
run through what the 7 rays actually are.
Well, the first ray
Will and power.
is will and power, allied to the colour red.
Mm.
The second ray is love wisdom, which is the colour indigo.
Mm.
Ray 3 is active intelligence, which is emerald green.
Mm.
Ray 4 through to Ray 7 come about through the interplay of the first 3, or the trinity of rays. And Ray 4, for example, would be a blending of Ray 1 and Ray 2.
Is that not
That's harmony through conflict.
Yeah.
It's the yellow ray.
Yeah.
Ray 5 comes with a blending of rays 1 and 3, and that's the orange ray, which is the ray of science and analytical knowledge, concrete knowledge and
yes.
analytical science. Ray 6 would combine rays 2 and 3 together, producing ray 6, which is sky blue, and is the ray of devotion and idealism. And rays 1 and 2 and 3 combined together produce ray 7, which is the
ritual, love and magic.
It's ceremonial order, ritual and magic, which is the violet ray, purple ray.
Mm.
And I've given you there the 7 rays, and I've given you previously the 7 precious stones, which are allied through the mineral kingdom to each of these.
So it's calcified. It's
fields.
the energy calcified, isn't it?
Yes.
Which is why gems and crystals do have a power and an influence of their own.
Well, what's interesting about energy, Lynn, is not only does energy follow thought, but energy accumulates with the visualization of certain shapes.
Yes.
Now, for example,
sacred geometry.
Yeah, in meditation, it can be used as an important instrument and tool.
Hence why we have mantras.
Yes, that as well. It's about vibration. It's an important tool in the preparation of meditation. For example, the circle is a very powerful shape because the circle itself accumulates the energy of ray 1, which is will and power.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are lacking willpower in your life, for example, and you want to inculcate and invite first ray energies into your personality, for example, as a personal characteristic facility.
Yes.
It makes it easier, or as part of the preparation for this, to visualize the circle, because the circle, once visualized, will invite the archetype of will and power into that visualization.
Okay.
Likewise, for ray 2, which is love wisdom, the blue ray, that would equate to the triangle. So if you visualize a triangle in your meditations, you are inviting the archetype of love wisdom into that facility.
What if we visualized a circle with a triangle in it, inside it? Will and power containing love wisdom?
Well, I don't want to complicate it.
No, I know, but it's an interesting question.
It is, but I'll give you further examples.
Okay.
Ray 3, which is the green ray of active intelligence, is the square shape. So you would visualize square. That would invite the archetype of ray 3 and active intelligence into your aura, as did the triangle for ray 2. So, for example, if you're lacking in compassion, if you're wanting to open up your heart energies, then the visualization of the triangle would be a preparation for that. amongst other things. It won't do it alone, but it would help. So visualization is important, but remember that shapes accumulate energy. What type of energy depends on what shape. So we've discussed now the circle, the triangle and the square. Lyn has just asked what would happen with the triangle circles. Well, we'll come to that later. But
because you do see these kind of things very much in mantras and in modern jewellery and also in ancient tapestries and paintings.
Well, here's another example. The circle squared.
Yeah.
Would be ray 4, yellow, art and harmony through conflict. The circle squared.
Is that a circle in a square? What do you mean, the circle square?
No, circle within the square.
That's what I've just said, circle within a square, yeah.
So that would be the symbol of dealing perhaps with conflict, making things more harmonious.
Right.
Ray 5, the orange ray, which is concrete knowledge and science, would be the sphere, the lens. So it's a lens shape, lenticular.
You mean like an almond?
Yes, it's like an almond shape, like a lens.
Mm.
That would be the shape that accumulates fifth ray energies, which is the scientific ray. And that stimulates your brow chakra. So don't forget, with the visualization of these shapes comes stimulation of certain chakras. Mm. The head chakra for the circle, for example. Heart chakra for triangle. Throat chakra for square. Base of the spine for the circle squared. And the brow chakra for the spherical shape. Next, we come to ray 6, which is devotion and idealism, sky blue, which would be the cube. So the cube becomes three-dimensional square, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It's a square, but it's three-dimensional. So the cube would stimulate solar plexus. And believe you me, none of us really need to stimulate the solar plexus.
No, we don't. We don't. Which is about storing of emotion and excess emotion and sensation and stuff, which is...
Mankind, speaking organically, mankind has matured that chakra, brought it to full expression, and now needs to concentrate on heart energy.
It has to be said that a lot of society, in a lot of places, accumulates and gormandizes on emotion anyway, and has too much emotion, and this might be why there's too much obesity or corpulence or whatever.
Yes.
Because if you store, there's only a few places where you can store
one of the
weight on the body.
Remember that the endocrine gland associated with the solar plexus is the pancreas, which secretes insulin.
Yeah.
And one of the scourges of modern mankind is obesity and what do you call it? Diabetes. So it's overstimulated. The solar plexus is overstimulated. What we need to concentrate now is being kinder to ourselves, which is a heart chakra facility. Loving yourself by not engorging yourself in sugars. That's part of the loving yourself process.
I think certainly if you eat chocolate, is associated with the releasing something in the brain, which is like released when people are in love. So that's a good example of the
endorphins.
Sugar. Endorphins. Yeah. Actually, it's got another name as well, hasn't it? And in moderation, it's good for you. So people eat sugar. We turn to sugar for comfort.
Before we diversify, let me just complete this.
Well, we're not going to diversify. Yeah. I'm just filling out really what you said about the sugars and the pancreas and the solar plexus region.
Yes. The final shape that we're discussing here would be the pyramid, which is the three-dimensional triangle, if you like, which is ray 7, the purple ray, ceremonial order and ritual. It would help in preparation for inviting seventh ray energies into your aura by visualizing the pyramid. and that would bring down seventh ray energies or prepare the groundwork for it. So I again stress that in your esoteric life, this is very important. Shapes are the accumulators of energy, and the energies which they invite to them are the 7-ray archetypes of which I've just described. So these adumbrations, as I call them, come under the foreshadowing of the rays. So all human behaviour can be attributed to the archetypal expressions, both in terms of virtue and in terms of vice, Lyn, which is interesting.
Yes. Well, we need an example from that. So if we take ray 2 as an example.
Well, let me deal with ray 1 because that's
Okay.
that's easy for me to deal with.
Okay.
Red, the colour red, for example.
Red, danger.
Yeah, colours have qualities. Red is associated with danger because it has a destructive element to it.
Mm-hmm.
But it also has, on the virtuous side of it, an invigorating quality.
It does.
It represents drive. It represents energy itself. Yes, warmth.
I mean, an old-fashioned cure for lung problems and pneumonia used to be to wrap red material, red flannel, around that part of the body.
Really?
And it would work. Yeah.
That's new to me. I didn't realise that.
Yeah. Well, it's part of colour healing, isn't it? Although I don't know whether people thought of it in that way.
Yeah.
But there is colour healing, and it does work.
So there are polarities to each of the rays in terms of virtue.
So polarity. One of the most interesting rays, I think, is the 5th ray because it's least understood.
The 5th ray is a common ray in terms of 60% of humanity have either a mental body or a personality body on this particular ray, or in other words, are expressing habits, patterns of behaviour, attitudes which come under the umbrella of ray 5. Let us give you an example.
Yeah.
The mind itself has a polarity. It has higher mind and concrete mind or lower mind. And the 5th ray is the mind which we use in our rational and logical thinking.
So it's a higher intellect.
Yes, it's the higher intellect, as opposed to the 4th ray mind, which is abstract thinking. So this is the ray, the mental ray, and the personality ray, which most of us have in the West, in the Western world. If we are of a scientific inclination, we're likely to be 5th ray mental or 5th ray personality, wanting to have our knowledge based on facts, scientific facts, having a factual basis to everything. That's important to the scientific person.
So it's very investigative.
Yes, it's very inquiring, very investigative. It has to know through evidence.
Right.
So it's a very important ray in terms of developing the brow chakra, for example. France has a soul ray on the 5th ray, and whenever I think of that, a soul ray at a national level, you think of Jacques Cousteau, who was the oceanographer.
Yeah, the diver.
Who was very logical, very rational, very adventurous. But everything, his scientific life was revolved around facts and finding out facts about the sea life, marine life. He was a marine biologist, wasn't he? And he's a very 5th ray figure in my mind, as was Charles de Gaulle. Again, another French figure who was very rational, very logical, very cold ray. It's a very cold ray.
Yeah, well, it's the
because it's clinical.
The intellect is there and quite cool anyway.
It's clinical.
It's not about passion.
So I've given you 2 symbols there for 5th ray types of people.
Yeah. What about the sixth ray? That's very interesting.
The interesting thing about the sixth ray is it's going out of
fashion.
It's going out of manifestation.
Circulation, yes.
It is in recession. It was the age of Pisces.
Yes,
it was the
devotion.
age of devotion. And
blind obedience
yes,
and devotion.
It was the age of the church.
Yeah.
And it was the age of piety and now
martyrdom and suffering.
Yeah. Now we're seeing
acceptance of it.
We're seeing the manifestation of the seventh ray through Aquarius.
Yes.
So it's a massive shift.
Well, we better explain
It's a paradigm shift, isn't it?
We better explain the Aquarian age and the seventh ray, which we've just depicted as being ceremonial ritual.
And method of the seventh ray is to materialize, to make manifest something from within.
Yes.
So
the current fad with the law of attraction, or the current interest in the law of attraction, which is massive.
Yeah.
Is seventh ray.
If you visualize something that you want or want to create, and give energy to that and to project it out into the world, it will eventually manifest. And we've seen this manifest through technology. You know, electronics, digitalization of machinery and instrumentation has all begun with, not only through knowledge, but through visualization.
It has, and the instantaneousness of digital technology, so that you write a letter, send it, and the next few seconds it's on in somebody else's orbit or aura.
That's incredible. Right. The advent of electricity made this easier, of course, and electricity. With the advent of electricity was born the age of Aquarius, which is electricity is what, less than 100 years old, is it?
Well, there's an argument about that, isn't there, about who really discovered it or harnessed it. But it is certainly very new. But the digital age is even newer. Yeah, the age of the nanosecond.
That's right. So seventh ray is the seventh ray is to take something from within and make it manifest in the outer world. That's the idea of magic,
which occultists have been doing for hundreds of years. And it's interesting, it's noteworthy to say here that physics, modern day physics, is confirming what occultists have said in many ways, in many parts of the occult for thousands of years, hundreds of years.
You and I, perhaps, were visualised by our parents before we were seeded. And when two people come together and create a child, the child starts out as a protoplasm, as a seed. Like the mustard seed becomes one of the biggest trees from almost nothing. We too are like that. We come from almost nothing, but a spark from our parents, and that in itself we have manifested from something from within. So that's interesting in itself.
Yes, it is. Well, I think we will end there the discussion on the spheres of influence, and thank you, Peter, and I hope you join us next time for our next metaphysical topic.